So as Hannah mentioned, I'm Andy O'Brien. I've been at the Harvard Business School for 12 years. Prior to that, I worked in a construction management company, and for 10 years, Harvard Business School was our #1 client. So I did a number of projects at Harvard from the outside, and I've been working inside. So doing a lot of customer service for the business school. Obviously a topic that's pretty broad and varied. I think everybody has their own experience of what customer service is based on how they've had good and bad customer service. Sometimes TV shows may influence your customer service perspective, and I got a little clip of one I think that's memorable for many of us.
Medium turkey chili.
Medium crab bisque.
I didn't get any bread.
Just forget it, let it go.
Excuse me, I think you forgot my bread.
Bread, $2 extra.
$2, but everyone in front of me got free bread.
You want bread?
Yes, please.
$3! What? No soup for you.
So that's not exactly the type of customer service I want to promote here at the Harvard Business School, but it does give you some memorable different service experiences. What I want to talk to you today is the continuous improvement approach we've taken to customer service at the Harvard Business School. So it means we've looked at how to diagnose some of our services, and we have thousands of them per day. I want to explain that to you. And we also have redesigned a number of them. But before I start, I want to just explain a little bit about HBS, which is one of the 12 professional schools at Harvard. So we're about the scale of a small college. So with 36 buildings and 40 acres and 5,000 people per day on campus, and we're academic, we're residential, we have a chapel, we have a gym, we have all the student services that you all have at much larger facilities, all within that 40 acres. From a customer perspective, you can see at the top line, my customers are very much like yours. Students, we have about 2,000. We have faculty, a big group of vocal alumni, which many of you have also, staff and contractors. We do a very robust executive education. We run a 500-bed hotel operation on campus. We do 11,000 participants per year through the executive education. Two groups I don't have is parents, and I don't have state legislature, so some of you folks have those as your clients. From a service offering, I got 14 different groups that work for me there, and my staff is made up of 80 supervisory staff, 450 total staff. We do 85% outsourcing, which is a little bit maybe of a different mode than you all do, and the average length of employment is about 15 years. But I'm not going to explain all the services. I want my group to show you. Here's a short 2-minute video here. So that 2-minute video was done by one of the line staff who actually was featured there, who has a hobby of videography and photography on my staff. So she got really energized to do that, and we've used it for the last 2 or 3 years, just as a little bit of a public relations for my operations group. So I probably just showed you 2 minutes of your own operation, right, with all the different service touch points that you all have. One thing I should tell you about HBS, as a senior manager of the school, we're expected to model what we teach. And we teach operations and we teach customer service. One of the exec ed classes, in fact, was held last week, is on achieving breakthrough service. And myself and a number of my direct reports, I have 7, have been through that class. So the nice thing from working on a customer service perspective is we have a framework using this class of what we're talking about and how we think about customer service. So I'm going to give you the biggest takeaway from our exec ed customer service course. Here it is. Value your staff as much as you value customers. I don't think it's any breakthrough thing, but it's certainly something that takes a lot of effort on our part as leaders to kind of make that happen. So, of course, there's much more to it than that. So when you go to the HBS course, they teach you a number of other aspects of it. I'm not going to read them to you, but I'm going to flash them up here fast for you. And I think intuitively, you could probably come up with all 5 of these as you read them. But as a management group, we had to take academic learning and make it relatable so we actually could execute on it. So one of the things we did is we started with number 5. In 2005, we didn't have a mission statement at HBS operations, so we started with that. So I took the 80 supervisory staff, which you saw in an earlier slide, and we got together as a group, and we talked about what do we do? You know, that was the question that everyone had to ask. And we asked the alternative question of if we weren't here, what would be missing from the school? And everyone started to think about that, and everyone took their own perspective as to what we do. Everything from I make sandwiches to I manage the operation of the utility plant and whatnot. So that, with that all pulled together, we had a lot of different group work. It took us about 3 to 6 months, and this is what we came up with. The mission of HBS operations to manage the proper environment for the school. I stopped there because that's where I wanted to stop, but I was overruled by everyone else in the room, and I wanted to add, by striving to set the standard for operational excellence through creativity and teamwork. And they didn't want to stop there. They wanted to add all these operating principles too, which at first I fought it, and then I thought, that's great, you know, because all the things I want them to believe in. So if you ever do a mission statement, there's 3 things that they ask you to do. Make it a lasting statement so it doesn't change over time. Make sure that it's simple to remember, which I don't know how simple this is to remember, even though we have it posted everywhere. And then obviously get acceptance by everybody. So we got the acceptance thing done in spades, and this is what has been lasting for the last 12 years, and people really do believe in it. Once we got that worked out, we came into another problem, and that we had such a broad expanse of different service offerings, and I used this value pyramid as a way to kind of break it down. At the bottom, you got all your transactional work, the call center work, the stuff that comes in bundles every day. In the middle, you got your engagement stuff, whether it be events or housing or things like that. And at the top, all you folks that do the capital planning know how you do deep engagement with customers over long periods of time. We used this to just try to separate things out because people had strong expectations about what good customer service was. At the bottom of the pyramid, it was speed. Just get everything done quickly. At the top of the pyramid, it was being very accurate and precise with how you respond and work with your customers. So we had disconnects among my group of staff. So just to work this through a little bit, because it took us some time, we came up with these characteristics of each of these different offerings for customer service. So if it's a lockout or maintenance call, it's basically call me and I'll take care of your request, right? It has these fast, short duration, high frequency type requests. In the middle, it's an engagement type exercise where work with me to help me get something that I want to get done. So I put 2, one is an event and one is a personal training, but there's many more that kind of fall into this middle category. And at the top, obviously, you work with a lot of customers sometimes in these deep engagements. They really don't know what it is that they need. They can articulate a little bit of it to you, but you have to figure it out with your experts to deliver on what their needs are as a customer. And long duration, highly specialized, many stakeholders involved. So this different spans of customer delivery, we had to start thinking about as we worked on redesigning certain things. As I mentioned, thousands of touch points. When you got 450 staff doing this many customer engagements, it's a high churn thing. So to operationalize it, we came up with questions. Here's the first question. How are we going to improve our services? Pretty easy one. But you have to think about it in these different ways. So we framed it to think about it from the customer's perspective, to take the staff's role and responsibilities into consideration, to think about the process that we might use, how can we use technology to help us, what's the environment we ask our staff to work in, and then obviously performance measures means a lot. In the end, we came up with one question that you can ask about any of your service offerings at any time. Do we have the right people in the right place, doing the right things in the right environment? And if you can look across your span of services and answer yes to this question, good job. I doubt many of us can, and that's where the real work starts. The next thing we took a look at in any customer service engagement is basically 4 elements, and you can take any of your engagements and break them down into some simple elements and start looking at all the different sides. There's a customer, there's an employee providing the service, there's a context in which they have to work to provide the service, and there's the engagement itself. And how you kind of manage all of these will determine whether it's a good outcome or a bad outcome. So just using a lockout, it's a simple one. I want to just use it as a little bit of an example. So if you take this as a student locked out of his room, what's his expectations when he makes the call to get in his room? That someone's going to respond. That someone's going to respond with a good attitude. Now, this may be the 10th time this same student has been locked out of his room this week. So we expect the guard to show up like it's the first time. So a good attitude no matter when you've been there, even if you've been there 10 times in a week. And what we do with the guards, we explain to them, it's not like it's a lockout, it's a way to meet your customers and get a little bit of a relationship going. So the other thing, the balance of convenience and security, I think is an important one, just this particular item. When we let them in the room, we ask them to prove who they are. So it's not just that we let you in the room and there's no obligation on your part, because we do have some folks who try to get in the rooms, that's not theirs. When you look at the employee engagement, they need clarity. They need clarity of what their role is. They need the tools to get the job done. They need to know how to use a radio. They need to know the campus well enough to go and make the lockout call. The dispatcher has to tell you where you're going to go meet that student and where you're bringing them to. I mean, all of these things that need to be thought through as you kind of go through this simple customer service piece. Acknowledgement of effort and feedback, I think, is something that everyone who works for you needs all the time. They just need recognition for what they're doing. And then just to close out this thought, we have this golden pyramid. So if you have a customer service engagement that's not going so well, I would suggest you look in 3 different areas. Have you given your staff license to act on the customer's behalf? Do they have the capability to act? Have we equipped them with everything they need to actually fulfill the needs? Are they motivated to act? So just using the lockout, continuing in this process here. So you're going to work through the process, make it as streamlined as possible. The clarity we mentioned. Capability has to do with staffing in a lockout situation for us with 1,000 beds. We've got to make sure we have enough staff coverage for all the different lockouts we get. We know they happen at start of class and end of class. So that's when we have our guards out there working in the area. Personnel training and obviously technology. You probably noticed that it was a dip key, not a big hubcap of a ring of keys that he has to walk around and do the lockouts. So we've upgraded a lot of the locks for security reasons first, but also helped on the customer service. Motivation to act is the toughest one of the 3. So you have to recruit and hire for the right person. Certain people do well in these close customer engagements, certain people don't. You have to recognize that when you're hiring. Incentives and recognition, and I think this purpose and value piece is something that came through the talk last night. So you got to make sure that the guard knows that they're a valued contributor to the overall operation of the school. So I'm going to shift quickly. I've got a few minutes left here, and I want to do a redesign of something that many of you have probably done on your campus, I'm guessing. So the start of school is a busy time for all the students. One of the obligations we have is get everybody's ID put together, a permanent ID. So in 2005, we used to have what I call the scavenger hunt. So the students would have 2 dozen, 3 dozen things they have to get done in the first week of school, one of them to get your ID. So we used to have them all come down to my operations center, get their picture taken. We'd give them a temporary ID. We'd have the real ID made in 2 days. They come back, they have to give us the temporary ID back, and we give them their permanent ID. And then we'd have to go and do this for the parking office, for the housing, for their classes, so they had multiple places they had to go to. Suggestions from our staff, well, we should put it all together in one area. So we changed in 2010 to what I call now the one-stop shop, where all the students go to one large room, much bigger than this even, and we put all the service providers in that room where they can just work with each one. But it was still, take your picture, get a temporary ID, 2 days later, get your ID, come back and pick it up. Then we entered the digital age. So since 2013, we allow the students to send their picture, upload a passport quality picture to us, and over the course of the summer, we get the ID made. So when they go to the one-stop shop, they're picking up their permanent ID, and we've got rid of that middle step. A lot of these ideas came from the frontline staff. So it was mentioned earlier, engage your frontline staff and all the different touch points that you have. They really know what you should do. If you think as a leader that you have it all locked and you know how to do it, you're probably wrong. You're missing the details. So it's a good group to work with. So I'm going to wrap up here. I don't know if I gave you, this is how we've gone through this process, but I would guess I gave you a couple ideas of different things we've done. Here's 5 or 6, the culture of open inclusion of everybody. And I think one of the important things that I do is number 2, is I need to walk the talk. I need to be out there engaging with our clients in every way that I expect my staff to engage with them on a daily basis. And it's a continuous improvement journey, so it's not something that ends. It's something that just continues over and over, and you have to enjoy it. Otherwise, you'll get burned out and going through the customers' different complaints. Celebrate failures as much as you do successes, because you're going to learn more from them than you do the successes. So with that, I'll end, but I think I'll be around for the next 2 days and happy to talk to anybody about this topic. So.
Thank you, Andy.